As Sudan's deadly conflict nears 6 months, the country's de facto leader, General Abdel Fattah Al-Burhan, has admitted the fighting could lead to a wider humanitarian disaster in the region. The war between his army and its rival Rapid Support Forces, or the RSF, broke out in mid-April over plans to integrate the paramilitary group 4 years after former long-time ruler Omar al-Bashir was deposed in a popular uprising. The two generals gave competing addresses at the recently concluded United Nations General Assembly, giving a sense of how war is likely to pan out. Here's a report.
Khartoum is still burning. Explosions in the capital are still rending the air. It's now the new normal. Thousands are on a quest to flee, but are stuck at the border areas. Giving up for them is not an option.
The general problems that displaced people who fled the war zones are facing the lack of food and the draining of their own money. They need food, medicine, shelter, and healthcare. And as well, there is the main issue of getting their visas issued and passports renewed.
As the war drags on, the de facto military chief Abdel Fattah Al-Burhan was on his whirlwind diplomacy tour. He had already made a string of visits to 6 countries before culminating his trip in New York at the United Nations General Assembly. First to take the podium was the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. The leader made his comments in a recorded video message addressed to the UN General Assembly.
The RSF is fully prepared to declare a ceasefire throughout Sudan. This will allow humanitarian aid to flow, provide safe passage for civilians and relief personnel, and initiate meaningful and comprehensive political dialogue. This dialogue should lead to a comprehensive political solution and the establishment of a civilian government, guiding the country towards a democratic transformation and lasting peace.
However, when it was time for Al-Burhan to stand at the UNGA, his plea and response to the war was totally different.
I would like to reiterate our demand to designate the Rapid Support Forces and their elite militias as terrorist groups, for they have committed all sorts of crimes that give grounds for such designation. There is a need to firmly address their sponsors, those who have supported the killing, burning, raping, the forced displacement, the looting, stealing, torture, transfer of arms and drugs, bringing mercenaries or recruiting children, all such crimes that necessitate accountability and punishment.
Both sides blamed the other for starting the war that erupted in mid-April in Khartoum and has spread to other parts of the country, including the west region of Darfur, displacing more than 5 million people and threatening to destabilize the region. And as the UN General Assembly debate continued, human rights activists pleaded for more attention to be paid to the war in Sudan and for accountability in fighting that has killed thousands and displaced millions of civilians. The event was hosted by the US, Canada, Gambia, Norway, and the United Kingdom to bring attention to the Sudan conflict and ensure justice.
The tragedy that I'm describing is one that we've seen before. We literally could be having this conversation 20 years ago. Targeted ethnic violence, the burning of villages, mass murder and fleeing civilian, that was Darfur 2 decades ago. And now this nightmare is unfolding again. Why? We all know it's because those responsible for the crimes were never forced to answer for them.
The International Criminal Court has alleged war crimes and crimes against humanity committed in Darfur region may be subject to investigation. The United Nations Human Rights says ethnically motivated attacks perpetrated by Sudan's RSF and allied militia have killed hundreds in West Darfur so far. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.